It's Monday, September 27th here in Nha Trang, and I thought I'd give you a quick update on how things are going. Um, we've been averaging the last 7 days 10 new cases of COVID a day, and if it weren't for the fact that 2 days ago we had 20 cases, uh, it would be considerably lower than 10 a day, but anyway, you take what you get. Um, overall, the entire country seems to be seeing a decrease in the number of cases. So that's quite positive. Unfortunately, the two major places with outbreak, Ho Chi Minh City and a province down in that area, they're still getting the vast majority of the COVID cases. Vietnam's getting, let's say, if there's about 11,000 cases a day, I mean, some days there's 11,000, some days there's 10,000 or less. But if, for example, a recent day there were 11,000 COVID cases, and I think 10,000 of them were in Ho Chi Minh City and this other province nearby. Um, on the news front, there had been a plan to open Phu Quoc Island down in the south to vaccinated tourists without needing quarantine October 1st. Unfortunately, that has been pushed back because of a recent outbreak of COVID. So probably the earliest you can count on that happening is November. And it's just been announced via an express that this province, Khanh Hoa, has approved a plan to welcome back fully vaccinated foreign tourists under a trial vaccine passport program starting this November. So this is still a proposal or a plan, and it still has to be approved by someone to make it happen. Anyway, if that does happen, Nha Trang, or not Nha Trang itself, but Khanh Hoa province could be one of the first places that opens up to foreign tourists on any level, vaccinated or unvaccinated, because so far tourist visas haven't been available for anyone. So the the plan of this is, again, totally a plan that foreign tourists would arrive in chartered flights only, I believe, and stay in sequestered beach resorts on Long Beach and Cam Ranh Peninsula, which is around 45 kilometers or 25 miles from Nha Trang town. So the likelihood is that these are going to be relatively high-end resorts. I think this is the area near Cam Ranh Airport where flights coming into Nha Trang land are coming into this province land, and then you take a taxi to Nha Trang. And so you will, if you do come in on this program, if it does go through, you will be pretty much just sequestered at your resort. However, quarantine is not required, so you can go out, walk around, use the beach, things like that. You won't be stuck in your room, although I do imagine there will be COVID tests administered regularly. The staff at all these hotels, at all these resorts, will have to have been fully vaccinated, vaccinated for COVID, and I think they will also be getting tested on a regular basis. So guests should be free from getting infected by the staff. However, it doesn't sound like it is going to be possible for people who come into Cam Ranh and do this to come into the city of Nha Trang. So whatever benefit this does to Khanh Hoa province, it'll mainly be in the area around the airport, Long Beach and Comron. Uh, and this supposedly it's a trial program. It'll supposedly last through the year. And then possibly in the new year, they would start loosening restrictions in other places. So, this again, it's just a plan, and it has to be approved by some kind of government uh, officials, and that hasn't happened yet. Um, the province of Khanh Hoa seems to be getting quite a lot of people vaccinated with their first dose anyway. I think the goal is to have every adult at least offered one shot of a vaccine. They are using a variety of them. Sinopharm and AstraZeneca seem to be the two that have been used here in the last month, I believe. Um, so anyway, the hope is that they'll get every adult vaccinated this month, which only leaves a few days. So um, it's maybe optimistic or overly optimistic because there seems to be at the moment a delay in getting vaccines allotted to Nha Trang. One of the reasons Phu Quoc will not open is that they've also not received their enough vaccines to vaccinate much of the population. I think it's probably well under 50% of the population of Phu Quoc, adult population, has been vaccinated so far. So, that is kind of one of the real sticking points, getting enough people vaccinated and ideally getting them fully vaccinated by November when this plan is supposedly going to begin. As I said, it doesn't offer much for Nha Trang itself, although Nha Trang will supposedly be opening to domestic tourists from October 15th. Um, Even then, it's not likely we're going to get a significant part of the population with two doses of vaccine. But I think, they're maybe hoping for 50% of the adult population to be fully vaccinated by middle of October. And I think they're going to focus on store staff and people working in the tourism industry so that they can actually resume tourism for domestic tourists relatively safely. So anyway, we shall see what happens. Unfortunately, if you're hoping to get to Vietnam, uh, there's nothing specific been said about the requirements for getting a visa. And I'm afraid the old days when people would get online and were able to book their visa online, their tourist visa online, those days are certainly not here yet. And I would imagine there's going to be some kind of insurance requirements that weren't there before the pandemic. But it is a hopeful sign that finally tourists are going to be allowed to enter Vietnam. And as I say, it could be Nha Trang or Khanh Hoa might be the first province, although I suspect other tourism-related provinces such as Da Nang are maybe working on a similar program, although I haven't read of anything specific on that yet. So, as always, it's wait and see what happens. There is talk that domestic flights may be started again, maybe early October, maybe the 10th of October or so. Again, it remains to be seen if this will actually happen. Things are opening up a little bit in Vietnam and Nha Trang too. The restrictions aren't quite as bad as they were. Um, the beach is supposedly available for people to walk on, although swimming is still considered forbidden. Um, I don't see anybody out there at this time of the day. It's about 1 in the afternoon, which tends to be a pretty hot time. Um, there are more street stalls and restaurants and street markets opening up, only for delivery or takeout. And the city is very slowly coming back to life. It is going to take a long time, and it is pretty discouraging to hear that the initial plan is to not let Nha Trang City enter into this trial program of letting vaccinated tourists come in, because Nha Trang City really is dependent on tourism. Um, the hotels are nearly all closed and empty. And, certainly the economy needs jobs, needs tourists to provide jobs for people. So I am hoping that if things go well with the Cam Ranh plan and possibly with Phu Quoc opening up in November, let's hope, that the government may decide it's wise to relax restrictions more and let people come into places like Nha Trang and Da Nang and not have to do quarantine. And I think in order to get a reasonably large number of tourists in, it would be nice if they didn't require people to stay in designated hotels. Um, because one of the attractions of Nha Trang and other places in Vietnam is that there are a lot of nice but quite inexpensive hotels, and that's one thing that draws people here. And also those smaller hotels definitely could use some income also. So anyway, we will see how it pans out. It is very hopeful that in this coming fourth quarter of the year that many more vaccines will be imported by Vietnam, and much of the population will be getting their, if not their second shot, at least their first shot, and hopefully much of the population will have been fully vaccinated by before the end of the year. That may be, again, kind of optimistic.